This course is presented to you free of charge by TTJ Tech Services of www.ttjtech.biz and by Stir It Up of www.stiritup.com. And remember, stir is spelled with a U, not an I, so that's STURITUP.com. TTJ Tech Services and Stir It Up are pleased to offer this course to you to the glory of God and to the benefit of all those who listen. Well, glory to God, praise God, and welcome to session number 12 of iPad for all computing. We're continuing with our app Bonanza, going into part 2 of that today. We want to take a look specifically today at the Apple News app, which you will find is rather similar to a lot of the other apps we looked at yesterday, the music app, the TV app, and so on, and really the Apple Books app, which is going to be the second app that we look at today. And both of these are sidebar apps on the iPad. Of course, we've looked at sidebars. We discussed them again yesterday, and we'll look at them today in news and books. They're set up with a very similar pattern, especially books, to the way music, TV, and podcasts are. But we're actually going to go ahead and look at news first. The Apple News app is a great way to get all of the late-breaking news and stories that you want to read from your favorite news sources across the web and across media in general, major news sources, as well as smaller ones. And you can follow various channels, so you always get their notifications. You can get top stories and late-breaking news notifications, and you can even save stories and share them, and all of these things that you would expect to be able to do. And if you choose, you can have an Apple News Plus subscription. It is included in the Apple One bundles, or some of the Apple One bundles anyway. And you can also subscribe to it individually. And Apple News Plus is going to give you access to hundreds of magazines, cover to cover. It's going to give you access to audio stories where you can listen to things on special articles and so on. Special interest type stuff, some entire newspapers. There's a lot of great stuff in Apple News Plus. So let's take a look at the app together.
News. Double news.
And
Today feed. CNN. Maybe Texas went too far with immigration.
Okay, so it's automatically going to start reading. In this case, it started reading. It's a split screen app, of course, with a sidebar vertically along the left. And what you select is, of course, then displayed on the right, or maybe really a little more than half. It's kind of 3/4 of the iPad screen, probably. What else can I tell you here? Well, let's just start looking at the sidebar.
Hide sidebar button.
That upper left button is the hide sidebar button once again. And you know that if it's hidden, it will say show. I mean, that's obvious, right? So let's...
Show sidebar.
Now it says show.
Show sidebar.
So let's go ahead and show it.
Hide sidebar.
All right. And we will resist talking about any political stuff, which almost probably half of the stories we're going to run across will have some political affiliation, because that's always in the top stories, right? Especially in an election year. But resist the urge, my friends. Okay, we're not going there. So let's go to the top left here.
Hide sidebar.
Swipe to the right.
Edit button.
There's an edit button. You saw that in the music app, for example, where we can edit the things that appear on this sidebar.
Channels, topics, and stories. Search field.
And a search field.
Double tap to edit.
You can search for those stories you want to find out more about, different topics. Let's keep going.
Dictate. Following. Apple News.
Okay, let's look at what we have here. Keep swiping to the right.
Today. News Plus. New content available. Sports. Puzzles. Shared with you. New content available. Saved stories. New content available.
Now, a lot of these are saying there's new content available. Apple News, you had top stories, I think, right?
Today.
Or today.
Apple.
You had today. And then you had your...
News Plus. New
which is
content
News
available.
Plus, the section I told you about. You have Apple News Puzzles, which are a lot of fun. They are accessible, by the way. So if you're looking for a good crossword puzzle, use the Apple News app. Look no further. They're going to work well with VoiceOver.
Sports.
You can have sports. You pick your sports teams again. And by the way, if you do this in the TV app, these are kind of connected to each other.
Puzzles. Shared with you. New content available.
Shared with you, I'm pretty sure we've talked a little about. If somebody shares something with you through messages, for example, it will show up in whatever app it was shared by. So in this case, shared with you in the news app is news stories that people may have shared with you via messages. And I will give you an example of that here in a moment, but that is how that works. It also applies to the TV app, to the photos, I believe, to Safari, and music. There's a few different apps. I'm trying to think of all of them and not tell you ones that are incorrect, but I think I've said the correct ones. I'm questioning photos, but I think there is. It's under the For You section. All right.
Saved stories. New content available.
So when you save a story, that's where that goes.
History.
And history is everything you've looked at.
Special coverage. Expanded.
Now,
Heading.
you notice special coverage,
Collapse section.
and it's an expanded section, just like playlists and music, library and music, library in the TV app. These are expandable and collapsible. And special coverage is going to be stuff that's seemingly important right now. I'm going to guess it's either March Madness, election 2024, or actually those are my only two guesses. Let's see.
Election 2024. New content available.
So that was what that was.
Climate. New content available.
Okay, so they have climate.
Favorites. Expand.
Now we're on another expandable section,
To collapse section.
and this one is things that I have said are favorites.
Astronomy. HuffPost. NASA. Fox News. Science. CNN. My Sports. Expanded.
Then you have another expandable section.
Tap to collapse section. New York Yankees. Pittsburgh Pirates. Philadelphia Phillies.
Okay, you get the idea of all this, right? So this is our sidebar, and if you don't want to see all this stuff, you can collapse something. So if you're not interested in, for example, the special coverage right now, or the favorites, you can collapse them and sort of make this more concise. Now, if we lift our hand and we touch sort of the upper middle, but heading on towards the right side of the iPad, we're going to see
Today feed. Following. Philadelphia Phillies. CNN. The Wall Street
Okay.
Journal.
there it is.
Apple News Plus. April 3rd. Heading.
So this is today,
Today feed.
swiping right.
The Wall Street Journal. Israel blames misidentification for strike that killed Gaza aid workers 27 minutes ago. Saun Engel Rasmussen and Stephen Callan. A child wearing a red shirt and standing in front of a person and a car. A child wearing a red shirt and standing
And
in front of a person
again,
and a car.
I want to stress to you that if we're looking at the news app, there's no way that we can avoid stories that may potentially be rather emotionally charged or rather controversial, even in some cases. This is not an endorsement of or a condemnation of anything that we read. This is an iPad class. This is strictly technology. Whatever you hear, resist the urge to take it personally at this moment, okay? Because this is tech. All right, swipe to the right.
CNN. Maybe Texas went too far with immigration law. State lawyer tells federal court. The Texas Tribune. University of Texas at Austin announces firings to comply with state's DEI. The Washington Post. Taiwan hit by its strongest quake in years. The Guardian. Our now weary bodies have held on. 109-year-old Tulsa race massacre survivors get day in court. Apple News Plus. The Atlantic. What Americans lost when they stopped going to church. Local news. Washington, D.C. NBC Washington.
So-
D.C. Mayor's 2025 budget includes
I'll pause that.
sales tax increase.
These are all what they are considering top stories, and there's even some local. You'll see local from different cities around, Washington, New York, San Diego, San Antonio. There are different ones, and you can choose which ones you want to see, if any. We'll go past these top stories into a section of trending stories.
Listen to Apple News today. The day's top news in 10 minutes.
Now, that's just a notice,
More.
and what it's telling you.
I download log.
Okay,
More.
what it's telling you is that you can listen to Apple News today, and there's a couple of ways to do that. You can tell our friend SIRI, play the news, and she will play something from either, I think it's NPR, Fox News, CNN, or Washington Post. You can tell her which one to do. I think NPR might be the default, but you can specify, and then she'll do that one. That's play the news. That's the phrase for that. You can also say On a HomePod, the smart speaker, you can say, "What's my update?" She will tell you about the weather, your calendar for the day, reminders for the day, and she will play the news. A third option you have is to say, "Play Apple News Today." Now, that is a specific podcast that has different feature stories and, as it says, the news in 10 minutes. When you just say play the news, you're going to get maybe a minute or two of top stories. But when you say Apple News Today, that's an entirely different podcast. And that one has, I guess, like about a 10-minute briefing along with sometimes featured stories. There are also other Apple News audio stories available in the Podcasts app. So what I would encourage you to do if you're interested in that is to go into the Podcast app and search Apple News, and you'll see all the different ones that they have. You can follow them so you never miss an episode. You can listen to whatever you want. We showed you how to do that a little bit yesterday. All right, so that's what that was telling us about. Now we're going to be in the shared with you section, as you'll soon see. We have an article here that was shared by Trainer Cliff.
Download blog 40 plus tips for the Mail app on your iPhone, iPad, and Mac. Discover over 40 tips to supercharge your Apple Mail app experience for a more productive and seamless messaging experience.
And if I swipe right, we see
From Cliff.
It was from Cliff. Now that one should be completely controversial. So we're going to go ahead and open that one. Something good to know, right? Tips for the Mail app on your iPad. So let's swipe back to it. Double tap.
40 plus back button.
There's a back button. Now, again, where's that back button? On the upper right side of the screen, but left sort of portion of that upper right quadrant, right? Upper left corner. The left side of the screen has not changed. It still has this sidebar.
Channels, topics, and stories. Search field.
So we're going to lift our hand and come over to the right. Or we might be able to use containers. Now, I want to show you. Go swiping to the left. You have a dislike button, a like button, and there's your back button. All right, so let's go to the right.
Text size button.
We can adjust the text size.
Bookmark button.
We can save this story, bookmark it. I'm going to go ahead and do that.
Selected bookmark.
All right, now go to the right.
Share button.
That's how we can share this story with others.
More actions button.
And there are even more actions. Let's see what those are.
Reply button. Remove share. Copy link. Report a concern. Go to channel. Follow channel. Block channel. Dismiss context menu. Button.
Now, some of those
Hide sidebar.
are specifically because this was a shared article from Trainer Cliff. So I could reply to him right there, and then I could remove the shared reference, those kinds of things. But then some of them, for example, go to channel or save channel or whatever it said, favorite channel, something like that. The channel is the newspaper or the magazine or the the reporting. So the news publisher, right? In this case, it's iDownload blog. Maybe it's CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, any of these different ones that you might be familiar with. So it could be any of those, but when you say go to channel, it's going to take you to that channel to see more stories from that channel. And if you save that channel, you're following it, so you'll get the updates and so on. Now I've got to go back because I got a call, and so I need to
Picture displayed. News.
get back to
Wednesday, April 3rd.
there we were. Okay, so now here's my again.
Wednesday, April 3rd. Title: 40 more actions.
That's where we were. The more actions button. Go to the right.
Title: 40 plus tips for the Mail app on your iPhone, iPad, and Mac.
And now what we'll do is we'll just keep swiping.
Access headings, images, links.
Okay, you see that it says use the rotor to access headings, images, links. So if I want to do that, those things are in the rotor. But if I just keep swiping right, it will read the article to me. Or I could even do a two-finger swipe down if I should choose to do so.
By Anchor Thinker Vertical Line April 1st, discover over 40 expert tips to maximize efficiency and productivity in the Mail app across your iPhone, iPad, and Mac devices. Image. You may already know some
Here's
of
an
these.
image.
A smartphone displaying a menu in front of a blue background.
That's so cool, isn't it?
7-1.
Praise God. Let's keep going.
You may already know some of these tips, while others will be new to you, but I still recommend you go through the headings to refresh your memory. Also note that some tips are exclusive to either iOS or Mac OS.
And that is a very good introduction. It even tells us that there are headings. So if I didn't want to swipe up or if I didn't want to swipe to the right with one finger, I could set my rotor to headings.
Edit. Headings.
And maybe I will find all the tips heading by heading.
Title: 40 heading level 2. 1. See your unread emails only. Heading level 2. 2. Select multiple emails at once. Heading level 2. 3. Mark all emails as read. Heading.
So you get the idea. And if I want to read any of these,
To access headings, images, links.
I'm interested in that one. Let's swipe to the right and read it.
Tap edit greater than, select all greater than mark, and choose mark as read to. Remove the blue unread dot from your unopened emails. Link. On Mac, click mailbox greater than mark all messages as read from the top menu bar.
Okay. So,
Use the rotor to access
good tip.
headings, images,
So
links.
you get the idea. And we can hit the back button.
I download dislike back button.
And now we're back to the news feed.
Today feed. I download logged from Cliff. For you, heading.
There's a section called For You.
Recommendations based on topics and channels you read. Today feed. Apple News Plus, The Wall Street Journal, We're Old, Retired, and Apparently Invisible. Apple News Plus, Delish, The Dark Truth About Drinking Seltzer. Apple News Plus, Slate, The Younger Man I'm Dating Just Dropped a Bombshell.
Okay, so any of these that I want to read, there are all different sections here in the Today feed, or I can change the feed by going to the left side,
Following favorites, expanded,
and maybe I want to pick a specific favorite,
astronomy,
like,
HuffPost, NASA, Fox News, Science, CNN,
oh,
My Sports,
I don't know.
Science,
Let's say I pick science.
Science.
Now on the right,
Picture, news, Scientific American, ancient Egyptian mummies reveal what diseases plagued more action, popular science, how big rats took over North America, Apple News Plus, National Geographic, dog DNA tests are on the rise. But are they reliable?
so again, double tap anything you want to read, and then back to the left, if we wanted to pick a saved story, we could go to saved.
USA Today, video, Entertainment Weekly, Kenan Thompson speaks out about quiet on set, The Washington Post, Trump calls his globe, HuffPost, video shows how Texas man, from Cliff, button. I download.
There's that I download blog one.
Saved stories.
All right,
Heading.
so you can see any of these topics or feeds that you pick, you can read them. And let's do one more. Let's go into Apple News Plus.
News Plus, new content, News Plus.
Now on the right, you're going to see something very different.
Magazine feed, new titles, but kids and parents.
Go to the left a little bit more.
Wednesday, April
Okay.
Categories, Apple News Plus, Discover, heading.
That's all right. There we go. Now to the right.
Categories, selected, Best of News Plus, button. My Magazines, button. Downloaded, newspapers, catalog, magazine feed, Apple News Plus, National Geographic, Apple News Plus,
So,
Apple, Earthquake.
Okay, go back here.
Your subscription, more.
I think we jumped.
Apple News Plus, The Atlantic, See All, Field and Stream, Bloomberg Business Week, Entertainment Weekly, Fortune, February/March, Smithsonian Magazine, March 2024, Forbes, February/March, Car and Driver, March/April 2024, Popular Mechanics, The New Yorker, PC World, Vanity Fair, Consumer Reports, Newsweek, March 15th, The Hollywood Reporter,
And all of these
March 6th issue,
we can get and read. And so let's say I wanted Consumer Reports here.
Newsweek, Consumer Reports, April 2024 table of contents.
Now if we swipe to the right.
Consumer Reports. Share, but more action. Title, April, intro, best and worst cars, trucks and SUVs. Heading, in this issue, heading, from the president, why recalls aren't enough. How Consumer Reports tests cars. Best cars of the year, 10 top picks of 2024, the best and worst list 2024.
So you get the idea. And again, up at the upper middle here,
Consumer back button.
the back button.
Back,
And I'll put it back on my
Apple News. Today
feed, so it's back to
Apple News Plus,
the
Wall Street Journal,
and every once in a while you'll run across an article that says Apple News Plus, even if it's not in the Apple News Plus section because you're a subscriber. See, that was
for you today feed.
But
more.
We're back.
Listen to Apple News, local news,
Yeah,
Washington.
there we go. So and the all right. So that is kind of an idea. Now, also, I would say these stories not only can they be double tapped, but they have rotor actions.
Apple News Plus, The Atlantic, what Americans lost when they stopped going to church.
If you swipe up and down,
more actions. Suggest less. Suggest more. Share. Save story. More actions. Explore and activate.
And I suggest to you that we could long press to get those also.
Open a new window. Button. Share story. Save story. Copy link. Suggest more. Suggest less. The Atlantic. Button. Preview. The Atlantic. Dismiss context menu. Button.
So I'm going to actually save that story too.
Copy. Suggest. Save story. Button.
Okay. That one's saved too.
Today feed.
All right.
The Guardian.
So that's a pretty good overview for you of Apple News. And now we're going to move on to Apple Books, the other app that we want to take a look at today. Initially introduced 14 years ago now with the very first iPad back in 2010. It was introduced as Apple iBooks and rebranded later as Apple Books. This app is truly a digital e-reader. It allows you to both import and download books, some of them free, some of them paid. You can import your own if they are the correct format. More on that later. And you certainly can also buy them or you certainly can also download or buy them, purchase them from the Apple Books store. Now, this does include the EPUB format, which is the open standard for digital books. Most of the books you buy are going to be in the EPUB format. There are some variants of that, but basically that's all you need to know for right now. And then you also can have audio books in the Apple Books app. So you can get books from the Apple Bookstore that are audio. And you also can store your PDFs in the Apple Books app. Now, a lot of times nowadays, we just use the Files app, which we're going to learn about next week, praise God. We use the Files app for our PDFs because we can read them in there. We can mark up our PDFs in there and, autofill them, basically doing anything pretty much that we need to do with our PDFs. But some people may choose to store them in Apple Books. So that's up to you. So Apple Books supports PDFs, audio books, and digital books, or EPUB books, in other words. And again, they're various formats, reflowable, fixed layout, all that good stuff. So that includes read-along books and things of that nature. Very much like the music app and the TV app and the podcast app, you have this sidebar with the first section being a kind of a home tab, although I think they call it Read Now in the Books app. But it's essentially the same thing. And I've got some kind of reminder notification or something, I think. Maybe not. Maybe it's gone. Okay, I'll look at it later. Anyway, so that's how that's going to work. You have that first section. It's not really a tab because it's a sidebar, but I believe it's called Read Now, but it's like the home section of the music and TV apps and so forth. And it has the kind of list of what you've been reading and recommendations and so on. And then we have certainly our library section, our store sections. And we can read a book. We can do just about anything we want to do. Highlight in the book, make bookmarks in the book, access the table of contents, look words up in the dictionary. We can even perform searches using Google or Wikipedia right from Apple Books. So what I'd like to do is show a little bit of this to you. But when I do, I'm going to start out by showing you a book that I've actually written, because that way we don't have to worry at all about the copyright. So basically, I've written a book that is about the subject of the Titanic. I've been borderline obsessed with the Titanic ever since I was a kid. Wrote this book. It's available on the Apple Bookstore and in print and Amazon Kindle. But anyhow, I can use that one freely with you because I'm the copyright holder. So we don't have to worry about violating any copyrights. We can even play the audio on this session. So I think I have to play the audio on I don't know if the audio will play in Apple Books on the same device that I'm using the screen share with, so I'll do that on a separate device. But either way, let's go ahead and go into the Books app and start to show you around a little. Apple Books even has reading goals, so you have to read a certain number of minutes or hours a day, and you get kind of an attaboy or attagirl. Really, I think the default was 5 minutes or something. It's not very much, but you can change that. But let's go into Books here.
TV, books, apps, camera,
Whoops.
TV, books.
There we go. Now,
Books.
Again, as I've said,
Reading, 5 minutes left.
so it tells us that right away.
Home, Heading.
And that's on the left. That's on the right. Let's go to the very left.
Hide sidebar.
Top left is that hide sidebar button again. Very familiar with this pattern, right?
Edit button.
Again, you can edit what's there.
Books. Heading. Sidebar. Selected. Home.
It is actually called home now. It's not called read now anymore, so they've changed that, I guess, to line up with everything else. All right, so praise God. Let's see.
Bookstore.
Home, bookstore,
Audio bookstore.
audio bookstore.
Search.
Of course, you can search for things.
Library. Button. Heading. Expanded.
And as you might have guessed,
Double tap to collapse.
it's collapsible, but it's expanded right now, and it's our library. What's underneath that? Let's take a look.
All. Want to read. Finished. Books. Audiobooks. PDFs. My samples. Downloaded. My collections. Button. Heading.
Okay.
Expanded.
So what was that?
Double tap to collapse.
Those are sort of default collections or default ways of sorting and viewing all of the books that you have in your library. We saw all as the first one. If we want to see all of the books that we have in our library, we could have chosen that. But we also have PDFs, audiobooks, my samples, so you can get a free sample of paid books, and and a whole bunch of them, right? PDFs, all those things were available there. And then, just like with playlists in music, you have a separate collapsible and expandable section on the sidebar called My Collections. These are ones that you've personally created yourself. And a collection of books, it's books that you have that you want to organize in a certain way. So, like My Collections.
My collections. My books.
There's one called My Books, and I don't actually think I've created that one. Maybe I think that was default.
Titanic books.
Okay, I definitely created that one, Titanic Books.
Favorites.
Favorites I've created so that it has the books that I like the most, and I keep them in that collection.
JSBS.
JSBS is a Bible school that I get material from and read and so on. So that is that section.
New collection.
And you can create a new collection right there with that button.
Account. Button.
And now we've jumped over to the right-hand side of the screen. We are in the Home tab. There is an Account button again, as usual, so in case we want to see anything about our account.
Home. Heading.
And now we're on the Home. Again, we're on the right side of the screen.
Today's reading. 5 minutes left.
That's the reading goal.
Continue. Heading.
This is the Continue section, just like our Up Next section or, any of that stuff.
Titanic. The most complete story ever told. Matthew Grayson Valbrecht. Book. Bullet. 1%. More actions.
And we've got that ready to show you. It's in the Continue section, but if we keep swiping right,
Top picks. Heading.
we get to Top Picks, and these are books that they've recommended, and we can look through this by swiping to the right. We can look through the headings. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the left here and open this Titanic book so we can take a look together at what it's like to read a book. Now, you notice it said there are more actions available. So again, I would assume that either the rotor or the long press is going to give me those options, maybe both.
Continue. Titanic. Show menu. Activate. Default.
So there's a show menu option in the rotor. What's in it?
Show menu. Share book. Button. Share book. Add to want to read. Button.
You can share the book. Now, if it's a paid book, as this is, it's not actually going to share the book. It's going to share a link to the book on the Apple Bookstore for somebody to buy it. And they can also download a free sample of it if they want to. You see that it gives you the option to add to the Want to Read collection. You can keep a section of Want to Read books, and that will, show up for you.
Add to collection. Button.
You can add it to other collections, like the Titanic books collection that I've made, for example.
Mark as finished. Button.
You can mark the book as read, as finished.
View in store. Button.
View in store. That allows you to actually see the store page for this book, and that is a very good thing to do with books that you expect to receive updates, like your Apple user guides. If you get them from Apple Books, for example, you can view them in the store to see if they are the most current version or if there's an update available.
Rate and review. Button.
You can rate and review the book.
Suggest more like this. Button. Suggest less like this. Remove from continue. Remove. Button. Dismiss context menu. Button.
Remove from continue, or actually remove the book, and then there's dismiss. So we're going to do that. Let's.
Hide sidebar. Button. Nav bar. Hide sidebar. Continue. Continue. Heading. Titanic. The most
This time we're just going to double tap to open it.
books. Close. Button.
Now, the very first thing we see at the top of the screen.
Titanic. Last page in chapter. Close button.
There's our close button. As we swipe to the right,
Heading. Cover image credit.
Well,
Head.
listen to this first.
Close button. Heading. Use the rotor to access highlights. Headings.
Okay, we'll get there. Now, this is going to read, but I'm going to swipe past that. We'll keep swiping to the right with one finger.
Cover it. Photograph of a lifeboat. Book copyright 2012. Heading. It has now been almost 10 years since I officially began my work on.
We'll come back to that.
Indeed.
That's the book.
In that
That's the
life,
contents of the book.
the truth
Like,
is,
actually the
the
pages, but...
subject when I was in the by eighth page menu,
Okay.
page 2 of 55, adjustable.
Now, that...
Swipe up or down with one finger to adjust the value.
That 55, I think, is probably representing... Well, I don't know. Because there's more pages than that, but it may be the size of the screen. In landscape mode, some people like to read their books in portrait mode because it's more like a book. It's up to you. But keep going to the right.
Menu button.
There's our menu, which we'll look at.
Menu page.
So let's double tap on that menu button.
Menu. Search book button.
Go to the left.
Position. Table of contents 0%. Page 2 of 55. Button.
Now,
Adjustable.
this is...
Double tap to show table of contents. Double tap and hold. Then drag horizontally to scrub. Swipe up or down with one finger to adjust the value.
Okay, this is kind of one of those hybrid elements like we saw in the calendar app, where it's both a button and an adjuster. So if I swipe up and down...
Page 3 of 4%. Page 4 of 52. Page 3 of 0%. Page 2 of 55.
Okay,
Page 2 of
but
55.
if we double tap on it, it will reveal the actual table of contents, and I'll do that in a minute. But let's just swipe to the right and see what else is in this menu.
Search book button.
Okay, so you can search the book, and whatever you search, again, is not only going to show up book results, but also Google and Wikipedia, kind of spotlight search results as well. So maybe I'll demonstrate that in a moment or two.
Themes and settings button. Share button. Bookmark off button. Bookmark.
Okay,
Button.
so if you want to bookmark a particular page, you can do that. You can share the book here, and then themes and settings are going to let you change text, color, light versus dark, change other aspects of the book, night mode, different things of that nature. And I will also point out that your bookmarks, your highlights, and your notes will sync across all of your devices with iCloud, but so will your position in the book. So technically, it is not necessary to bookmark a page just to come back to it. In other words, if I'm reading this book and I get to page 8, and then I decide I want to make a snack or go do something else, I can close this book and come back to it later, and I will still be on page 8 when I open it back up. So the only time you really need to bookmark something is more along the lines of if I want to remember to go back to that page for some reason, I can bookmark it. So that's this button here in the menu.
Bookmark off button.
Let's go back
Search position
to the table of contents.
Position table of contents.
Double tap.
0%. Page. Activate to dismiss pop-up window.
There's a dismiss button. I've already gotten to the beginning of this book because I was there from before, but if we swipe to the right,
Titanic. The close button.
you can close the table of contents.
Selected. Copyright. Page 2. Forward. Page 2. Indentation level 0. Dedications. Page 3. Excerpt. Page 4. 1. Where it all began. Page 4. 2. Impressively grand. Incredibly vulnerable. Page 8. 3. Ode to Humanity. Page 14.
These are the chapters. And if you want to read one, you simply double tap on it. We'll go to chapter 1. We will skip the intros right now and go to chapter 1.
Menu button.
We're still on the menu, but what I suggest doing is touching the top left with 4 fingers.
Picture in picture.
Except right now we have our picture-in-picture window up there, but that's okay.
And consummation
Okay.
comes at excerpt taken from the 1 where it all
Okay,
began.
now what I would do here is just,
The rotor to access highlights.
I would swipe down with 2 fingers because it's going to automatically turn the pages for you that way, and you don't have to keep swiping right. You can manually turn the pages with a 3-finger swipe to the left or to the right. 3 fingers to the left goes to the next page. 3 fingers to the right goes to the previous. And there's a page adjuster here too if we keep swiping to the right. But let's just do a 2-finger swipe down for a minute to see what that sounds like.
Where it all began. Heading level 1, 1898. The book was called Futility, and the fledgling young author who penned it was Morgan Robertson. It was a fictional story about a great and glorious ship called the Titan. At 800 feet long and 70,000 tons displacement, The Titan was supposed to be the largest and most luxurious ship the world had ever seen. On board this fictional ship were said to be some of the wealthiest and well-known people of this period. Titan was said to carry over 3,000 people, but to have enough lifeboats for only a small portion of them. Yet, the complacent souls aboard the Titan believed her to be unsinkable, so there was thought to be no need for lifeboats. On a cold night in the North Atlantic, the Titan struck an iceberg and sank to the seabed, taking with her the vast majority of her passengers. The story was supposed to point out the futility and the mystery of life, that nothing is...
Okay, I'm going to pause that. And that is a true story, by the way. There was an author named Morgan Robertson who wrote a book called Futility in 1898. It was shockingly and chillingly similar to what ended up happening to the Titanic 14 years later. This is the book, and it's reading it to you. And if I had left it continue, it would automatically turn the page when it was necessary to do so. But we can also go to the bottom of the screen here, and we can see...
Menu, page 4 of 55, adjustable.
We can swipe up with one finger to go to the next page, down with one finger to go to the previous. And again, when we're on the actual text of the book, the content like I was reading a minute ago, you could just do the three-finger swipe left or right. And if we're our non-voiceover folks, of course, you can just swipe to turn the page. It's very, very easy, just like turning the pages of a book. Now, again, I'm in landscape mode, so we kind of have two pages here. We're seeing, which is why it's only saying it's 55 pages, the whole book. It's really more than that, but the size of the screen and everything for now, that is 55 pages. But some people like to read their books in portrait, as I said. It's up to you, personal preference. And that's how easy it is to read the book continuously or manually. But now, what if you want to do some other things with the book and get a little more involved? So one of the things we can do is we can look up the meaning of words. We can make highlights. Let me show you an example of this. I'm going to go back to the text and set my rotor to words here.
The book was called Futility, Character, or the Book, and the Fledgling.
Okay, let's say I don't know what the word fledgling means. So I want to go up here. If you don't know how to do text selection in the rotor, you can review our voiceover sessions, and we will kind of review it a little bit when we get to the Notes app and advanced text editing in this course. But I'm going to just...
Lines, text selection. F, select, space, selected.
Okay, hold on.
Edit.
Because
Actions, F.
I actually...
Words. Lines, text select, word selection, legging, selected.
All right, I don't know if I got the whole word fledgling there, but we're going to try it anyway. Let's set the rotor to
Actions.
Actions.
Bookmark, hide controls.
So you can bookmark the page right from the Actions rotor. You can hide the controls.
Activate, default.
We're going to turn the rotor again.
Highlights.
There's highlights. Edit. And right now, edit doesn't seem
Bookmark, page, activate, highlight, edit.
To have anything in it. So let's try this again here.
Lines. The book was called Highlights. Actions.
Okay. So
Character cap T. Words. The book and the space.
all right.
Words. Lines. Tech lines. Word. The selected.
There's the word the. All right. Now, if edit doesn't have anything, maybe we perform
displacement and the fledgling yacht display the Titan this the displacement.
I thought I could perform a double tap
text selection displacement selected
and long press. Yeah. Long press, double tap and hold, or triple tap.
Button.
Now these are not.
Button. Look up.
There we go.
Add note.
Okay, so these buttons here, they are not what we want. We go past them and we're going to see what the options are. You can add a note. This is going to allow you to write a little note, like you might jot something down in a print book. There's the lookup option, and lookup is going to look it up in the dictionary.
Translate.
If it's a foreign language word, we can translate it.
Search. Button.
There's search.
Copy. Button. Share. Button.
So you can share a passage, and of course you can dismiss. So if we go back to lookup,
you can adjust this in settings.
This is telling us
Lookup now shows personalized suggestions from the web.
Okay,
Continue.
we're just going to hit continue.
In progress.
All right.
Displacement.
Now we got the word we looked up, displacement.
Heading.
And let's swipe to the right.
Displacement, unconscious defense mechanism in psychology. About, heading.
Now, that's
Tap to Wikipedia.
That's Wikipedia. That's not necessarily what we're looking for, but keep going.
In psychology is more. Links. Wikipedia. Dictionary. Heading.
Here's the dictionary now.
Dis, middle dot, place, middle dot, men vertical line dis modifier vertical line plasm.
It's giving us pronunciations.
Vertical line noun. 1. The moving of something from its place or position. 2. The occupation by a submerged body or part of a body of a volume which would otherwise be occupied by a fluid.
There.
New Oxford American Dictionary.
That's water. That's the Titanic. That's the one that, is relevant there. And we can keep going.
Siri suggested website.
You have suggestion.
Definition of displacement. Merriam-Webster Dictionary.com. Vertical line meaning.
Now, I'm going to just go. We're not going to read through all these for the sake of time, but up here,
Siri suggested website.
you can see all those different things. Go back to the left.
In psychology, displacement heading.
Okay, and we can scrub out of this.
2 pages left in chapter.
So again, the way we did that, it was not in the edit rotor. We did use text selection in the rotor to select it, and I thought it was going to be in the edit rotor, but actually it's in the long press menu. So once you've selected a word, you're just going to do the triple tap or the double tap and hold. And, for a non-voiceover user, you're going to tap and hold, right, long press, and it's going to bring up a menu of items. You can look it up. You can make a note. You can do all those things. We did notice that the actions rotor, though, had the bookmark option in it, and we have, the highlights rotor, which there are no highlights right now, so if we went to
vertical navigate headings, content screen or vertical navigate the page for the book highlights.
See, there are no highlights right now, so that's to be expected. If we chose to, we could make highlights, but let's do that one more time now. Let's
actions, active characters, or the book, what, futile, and the space.
We'll do fledgling now.
Words, lines, text selection. Word select space selected. Fledgling selected.
Okay, there's a space in front of that because of where I had the cursor. I don't know if that's going to cause any strange issues, but we're going to try it anyhow.
Look up button. Siri suggested websites. Fledgling young heading.
Okay, so I had fledgling. So you can see.
Definition of fledgling. Fledge.
See?
Definition of fledgling. Merriam-Webster.
Okay, so you get the idea. So it's possible to work with your book. It's possible to perform searches. And let's just search. Let's do that. I'm going to just go back to the menu to do my search.
Menu. Position, search book, button, search field, is editing, dictate, cancel, undo, redo.
Look at all those options.
Paste, grab accent.
What we're going to type here.
The rotor to access
oh, let's see. I remember that there was a part of this book that talked about the swimming pool on board the Titanic. So let's type swimming pool.
Cap S I M I N G space P O O L.
Now we'll hit search.
Search.
Which is where the return key would be on screen. And let's see what we've got.
6, 10.
Okay.
Windows. She activate to dismiss pop-up window button.
Upper left, there's a dismiss button. Go to the right.
Swimming pool. Search field.
There's our search field.
Cancel button.
Get out of it with cancel.
2. Impressively grand, incredibly vulnerable. There was an indoor squash court on G deck and a heated swimming pool located on F deck, and a Turkish bath too. Page 9.
It's telling us what chapter it's from, and it's reading the context of it, and it's even telling us what page it happens to be on. If we want to jump to that, we double tap it. But there are more search results. Go to the right.
2. Impressively grand, incredibly vulnerable, swimming pool. Page 9. 2. 6. Face off. By this time, the swimming pool and the Turkish baths were flooded. Page 31.
So there's all different options here of what the correct one is that we're looking for. We just double tap. Now,
Echoes. She had 13 decks and numerous amenities including 4 swimming pools. 10. Echoes. Titanic swimming pool. Page 52.
That's an image gallery there, probably.
Search completed.
Shows you that.
7 matches found.
7 matches.
Search Wikipedia button.
Notice you can also search Wikipedia
Search the web button.
and
Link.
search the web.
Search
So not only can you search within the book for whatever term you type, but you can also search the web and search Wikipedia. Now, if I'm finished with this,
picture in picture. Book 2. Cancel. Cancel. Button.
we can just hit
Menu.
cancel.
Button.
And when I'm finished reading the entire book for now,
Picture in picture. Books said now till the spinner of the year.
we go up to the top left
No mortal alien. Ellipse heading closed.
and we hit close.
Hide sidebar.
All right, the next thing I'd like to show you in this app is how to search for books in the bookstore. And you can certainly go to the store sections and view what's trending, what's popular, what's new, New York Times bestsellers list, all these things. But let's suppose we want to search for a specific book. I happen to be looking for, let's just make something up. Well, by the way, I want to tell you, if you're really interested in the Titanic, we are holding a Titanic discussion and tribute next Monday, April the 8th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Join us for that on Zoom. That information was sent out to the Stir It Up newsletter, and we'll keep sending it out. But if you're interested in that, you can email us to get more information and the Zoom join link. Now, let's go to search. I'm on the sidebar, and I want to search for a book called Apollo 13.
Titles, authors, and more. Search field. Insertion point side. Cap P. Cap P. Left P.
Whoops.
Delete. P. Left P. P. O. L. L. O. Space 2. E. Delete.
Now, what we're going to do
1,
is
3.
let's see here.
Apollo 13 sidebar. New Apollo 13.
There's the
Search
edit field. What we're going to do
Cancel button.
is go to the right.
All button. Books button. Audiobooks button.
See, you can go books, all audio book. Excuse me. All books and audiobooks, right?
Series button.
Even series, so you can narrow these down.
Genres.
Look at all these choices
In your library.
in your library. Okay, go to the right.
Apollo 13 by James Lovell and Jeffrey Kluber button.
There's the book. Now, if I want to go to headings,
Headings.
because I happen to have that in my library, but I want to go down to the store, what you might see if you don't have that.
Store results. Heading. Apollo 13 by James Lovell and Jeffrey Kluber. Apollo 13, James Lovell and Jeffrey Kluber. Book. 4.9 stars. 13 ratings. Re-download button.
And that's the one I want. One of my favorite books ever. I really, really like that book. And we're going to be holding an Apollo 13 discussion soon, too. If you go to the right, there's probably the audio version of that.
Apollo 13 Unabridged by Jim Lovell. Audiobook.
Right.
Apollo 13
So it's the
Unabridged.
same book. But if I want to look at this, I can double tap on one of them. So let's look at the
Apollo 13
Apollo 13.
sidebar.
Now we're going to go to the right and use headings again and swipe to the right, though.
Cover image Apollo 13. Cover
What does it say about the...
A black book with white text on the cover. Jim Lovell and Jeffrey Kluber.
Okay, go to the right.
Apollo 13 author James Lovell and Jeffrey 4.9 stars, 13 ratings. Gift button.
You can gift this book.
More actions button. Download button.
Now I just have to download it because I've already purchased it, so I can download it again for free. Otherwise, it would show the price, and you could double tap on the price to buy the book. Under more actions,
More actions. Share book button. Add to collection. Mark as finished. Rate and review. Suggest more like this. Suggest less like this. Download. Remove. Dismiss context menu. Button.
those choices would vary depending on whether you own this book or not.
Cover. More actions. Download. Want to read. Off. Sample.
Now,
Want to read. Off.
see, I can add it to the Want to Read collection.
Sample. Button.
There's where I can get a free sample.
Publisher description.
And here's the description.
National bestseller. Astronaut Jim Lovell and co-author Jeffrey Kluber's harrowing account of the Apollo 13 disaster. Serving as the basis for Ron Howard's blockbuster Apollo 13, the book reveals true details not shown in the movie. Thrilling and evocative, you feel as though you're alongside Lovell in the lunar module. Written with all the color and drama of the best fiction, Apollo 13 tells the full story of the moonshot that almost ended in catastrophe. Minutes after a mid-flight explosion, the three astronauts are forced to abandon the main ship for the lunar module, a tiny craft designed to keep two men alive for just 2 days.
Okay, I do have to say, it really, truly is one of my favorite books. I reread it at least once a year. I'd say even if you're not interested in space travel, there's a lot in this book. It's just filled. I mean, it's awesome. Um, so once you've purchased the book, of course, you can open it, but that's how you find it in the store. You can read the description, you can read the reviews. We can keep going heading by heading. We can, look at related books, other books by the same author, if there are any. And when we're finished here, we can always close that, and then we can always cancel out of that search, and we can always go back to the home tab. Now, I am going to take a moment to show you what an audiobook looks like, but I'm going to do it from my iPhone so that you can actually hear it. So we won't be showing you on the screen, but I do want you to get the idea. Again, I'll use my Titanic book because it's my own book, so we don't have to worry about copyright. We can freely play this on the podcast and on YouTube. So let me open the Books app on my phone here.
Today's reading.
And I'll just search for it.
Tab bar. Search.
It'll be a little quicker.
Book, computers, books, and audiobooks. Search field. Cap T I T A N I.
I'll put my last name so that
V O E H T.
All right.
Store results. Titanic.
There's
the most complete story ever told by Matthew Grayson.
That's the print, not the print book, but the regular digital book. Let's look at here it is.
Titanic, the most complete story ever told, unabridged by Matthew Vaughn.
Okay, so I've double tapped on it, and it may automatically start playing. If I didn't own it, I'd have to buy it. But what we notice as we swipe to the right now.
Cover, image, and illustration of a ship on a body of water. Titanic sinks, 1,500 die. Titanic.
Okay, that's like
the most computer story
that is the image on the cover. As we swipe to the right, we have the title again.
Author, narrated by James Michael Shetler. 5 stars, 1 rating.
Actually, this opened the store page, not the book. So I apologize. Let me open the book.
Gift button. More actions. Listen button.
Okay, so I'll double tap that. Now it's going to start to read probably, but
close button. Titanic, the most complete story ever told. Written by Matthew Volbrecht. Narrated by James Michael Shetler. Forward. It has now been almost 10 years since I officially began my work on the book you're about to read.
And that's the forward. Now you can pause this with the magic tap if you are a voiceover user, right? The 2-finger double tap. But I just want to show you now what is on the screen. And in a minute or two, I'll be pausing to tell my son see you later because he's headed to work. But you'll hear the puppy barking when that happens. But we'll start here. Upper left corner of the screen has the close button. And then to the right,
Track 2. More actions button.
Love you. Love you. Have a good day. Be careful, okay? See you tonight. Can we get that? All right. So let's go to the right again now.
Titanic, the most complete.
There's the title.
Book position 2% adjustable.
It's adjustable.
Played 12 seconds.
Okay.
6 hours 53 minutes left.
Now there's 6 hours and 53 minutes left of the whole book, but within this chapter you'll see
to play 8 minutes 18 seconds
in that particular track or that particular section. So that's why you have 2 different sets of numbers there.
Go backward 15 seconds. Button. Play. Button. Go forward 15 seconds.
So you have your forward and back and your play button.
Volume.
your volume.
Playback speed, normal speed.
You can adjust the speed. Double tap on that. It's a button. You can change the speed.
Sleep button.
There's the sleep timer you can set if you want this to automatically stop playing after a while.
AirPlay button.
And of course, we can AirPlay this to a HomePod or an Apple TV. She might do that again, but maybe not. You can AirPlay this to a HomePod or an Apple TV.
Table of contents button.
You can get a table of contents here as well. And that's really it. The close button is up at the upper left there. And that is, I mean, really not anything rocket science that we need to show you, right? I mean, all of these patterns, as you're seeing, really do work. And you can easily figure these apps out. I wanted to give you an overview because I really do enjoy reading books on the iPad. I think it's a great way to read both the digital books and the audio books. If you have sighted family, especially if you have kids, you can even get read-along books. We have a couple. We used to... the iPad initially, when it was released 14 years ago, used to come with Winnie the Pooh as a digital book, and we still have that one. There are plenty of other free books you can download, but then there's also, the paid books, and again, the audio and the read-along. The read-alongs are so cool. We use them with my kids. We have 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, which we read at Christmas time, and it's got music and it's got narration, but the narration actually highlights the words as they are being read. Those are read-along. They're not just regular audio books, right? So there's actual text in the book that the kids can read and so forth. It's really cool. So you have all of those options and more. And some of you might be asking, well, how you mentioned that I could import books that I didn't buy that I might already have. How do I do that? And the answer to that is you do that with the share sheet. We know by now what the share sheet or the share menu is. If you get a book, let's say via email or a website, when you double tap it, it may automatically open in Apple Books. But if it doesn't, just hit the share button and say, choose the option that says books. It's that simple, right? And it will open up into books. It'll load into your library, and it will be available on all of your devices thanks to iCloud, praise God. Now, I will also say that if you do get a PDF, you can open that in the Books app in the same way. Other than that, I mean, really, that's the way, just make sure the book is a compatible format, right? EPUB or PDF are going to be the two that you'll primarily import into the Books app, if you choose to do so. And let me think. I told you it might automatically open in Books, or you can use the share menu. It's also possible to take Pages documents. We're going to learn about Apple Pages in a few weeks here. And it's possible to actually create your own EPUB books that can work with the Apple Books app, and even to publish to the Apple Books store if you so choose. Of course, there's a lot of steps to that between actually writing your first Pages document and publishing it as a book on Apple Books. But we're going to cover a lot of those, believe it or not, in the Pages section of this course on Apple Pages when we get there. So by the end of this course, you'll know kind of what you need to know to do that. But Apple Books is a really powerful app. I know some people prefer other ones like Bard. You can get a variety of books at no cost as a subscriber and so on. And that's fine. Of course, there's no right or wrong. It's all personal preference. I myself am not a Bard subscriber. I've just found that Apple Books does everything that I want it to do and need it to do, and I really have no need for anything else. So I like Apple Books. That's what I use. Some people, maybe you're coming over from another platform. You were a Kindle user. There is an Amazon Kindle app. Trainer Cliff has commented. I'll unmute him here shortly if he's able to be unmuted. But he's commented before that app at least was pretty accessible. So if you did need it because you already had a pretty robust Kindle library, you certainly can download the Kindle app and use it on here as well. But yeah, that's going to sum up kind of what Apple Books can do.
And I don't use the Books app as much as I used to, but I use it more than the Kindle app now because I just like how you can make collections and you can have recent, category. Basically, you got smart lists or smart filters as if it was mail per se. So you ain't got to search and dig for stuff anymore. So it didn't used to
That's
be
right.
like that when it was iBooks. It wasn't as easy to find things and make, playlists and collections, for lack of a better term, and stuff like that. So
The other
That's
question I have was about the read alongs you mentioned.
yes.
Do they have a choice to either read to me or have the child read on their own,
Yes,
or is
they
it
do.
just
They typically do have the choice. Yes.
at the beginning of the book?
Yeah, there's sort of like a little, how we looked at the screen and there were all those different options on the screen depending on what kind of book we had. The read along
Mm-hmm.
ones will have an option and it'll say um, like you can turn the sound on and off. You can say automatic voice. I forget what it calls it, but it's clear that it means that the narrator reads it, and you can turn that on or off. And then you can also turn the page, like automatically turn my pages or something too. So you can make it a totally automated process. You can make it a follow along process. You can make it a, totally the child does it. There's a, yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. We will see you next Monday. God bless you. Thanks to Cliff. Thanks to everybody for being here today. And have a great rest of your week and a great weekend. See you next time, folks. Take care, everybody.
thanks for joining today's session. Didn't get your question answered? Want paid one-on-one training? Email us at support@ttjtech.biz or support@stiritup.com. And remember, stir is spelled with a U. That's STURITUP.com. I'm Trainer Cliff. Thanks for joining us. God bless. See you next time.